For this assessment, I ran out of children to borrow, so I introduce you to Curious George, who is an infant in the hospital that I will be doing my assessment on. And you'd walk in, do your hand hygiene, and if the parent's here, I would introduce myself to the parent, explain to them that I'm just doing a quick assessment on the baby, making sure everything's looking perfect. And I'd start off by doing vitals, but don't have that stuff here, so we simulated it, and his vitals are great. And then put on some gloves, and moving into the assessment, I'm going to start by feeling around and checking out George's scalp. You can feel around for the fontanelles and the suture in the skull, and make sure they're lining up as they should. And it's normal for the anterior to be smaller than the posterior fontanelle, and they will close within time. And while we're up at the head, we can also check for swelling, any bald spots, or any rashes that may be on the head too. And their head could be deformed from how they came out of mother, but that'll usually resolve on its own. So George's head looks good here. Now I'm going to move down and check out his ears and make sure there's no blockage, and George's ears seem to be looking great. And you can also check out his eyes, make sure his scleras are white, and then the conjunctiva is pink. And George has beautiful black eyes, and everything else is perfect on it. Then we can check out his nose, make sure he has proper airway, make sure his nose is open and working fine. That's normal for newborns to have little white bumps on their nose, but that also just goes away. And we can have him open his mouth, or try and get him to smile so we can check out his mouth. Or if he's crying, we could also stick a gloved finger in there and test his sucking reflex, and that would let us know. It would also help us feel the palate, make sure it's soft, and also let us know that his tongue is working and he's not tongue-tied. And while we're up at the head, we can also kind of brush his cheek and test the rooting reflex. Alright. Now that I'm done checking out his head, I'm going to move further down to the body. I'm going to unwrap him here. And I'm going to lightly feel his clavicles, make sure they're all smooth, no deformities or anything like that. And you can also test the range of motion on his arms. He might reach for us, you never know. And then we can test his grasping reflex, where he'll try and grasp your fingers. And while I'm up at the arms, I'm also going to go ahead and check his radial pulses, and they feel fantastic. Alright. Before I move any lower, I'm going to listen to his heart and his lungs and then his valves. Make sure everything sounds as good as it should be working. And for the heart, for all these sounds, I'll be using the small bell because on such a small child, helps hear better. And then for the heart, you want to listen to the 4 spots: the aortic, the pulmonic, Herb's point, and mitral. That way you get a good listen of every part of the heart and you don't miss any murmurs. And now for the lungs, since the baby's so small, there's only 4 different spots you have to listen to on both the front and the back. I'm going to slowly pick them up and listen to the lungs on the back. Breath sounds are clear bilateral in all points, and S1 and S2 are also heard when listening to the heart. Now I'm going to move down and listen to his valves. Alright. His valves are great. They're working. And then you want to palpate after you listen. That way your palpations don't interfere with the bowel activity and cause some, not fake, but not real noises. And then after we got all that checked out, we're also looking at his skin while we're doing this. And redness is normal for little babies. And he may have some newborn acne, but all of that is normal given the age. While we're moving down, I checked the radial pulses earlier because as we move into the diaper area, you don't want to reach back up and touch them with disgusting stuff. And his femoral pulses feel great. Now we can also hold his feet, check the range of motion on his legs, and make sure George has 2 testicles and an anus, which he does. Everything looks good down there, George. And while you're on the feet, you can test for the Babinski's reflex. And on newborns, their toes should fan out, unlike adults where they curl in. And then after we do all that, we can kind of pick him up a little bit, test his stepping reflex, make sure he's attempting to step even though he can't walk. And while we have him up, we can also take another look at the back and ensure all the skin on the back looks as it should, and make sure he has a straight spine. And everything on George looks great. He's a healthy baby. Now we can just put him back to sleep. And also, while working on newborns, it's normal for their belly to kind of round out, so because their abdomen muscles are not as strong. I think that's it.